Hi, John. Thank you very much for joining us today. Abra Silver is an advanced stage exploration company in Argentina in the province of Salta. And as we both know, jurisdiction is so important when it comes to mining. And the province of Salta is often regarded as one of the most mining friendly areas in South America. And why don't we just start right here? Tell us about the province of Salta and why is it so good to mine in?
Well, first off, thanks very much for having me, Jimmy. Really appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, without question, you're right. I think Abra's very fortunate to be located. Our project, Diablilos, is located in the Salta province of Argentina, which has really emerged, I'd say, as one of the most mining-friendly jurisdictions in all of South America. So the provincial government there has really managed to create a stable, supportive framework for mining investment. They have a very streamlined permitting process, and without question, a pro-development approach. And so Salta's always been known as a great jurisdiction within Argentina, and it's been recognized by the Fraser Institute and several others as being the most mining friendly provinces within not just Argentina, but all of Latin America. And that's based on recent Fraser Institute surveys. And so, in addition to being in Salta, I'd say the other positive catalyst for us right now has been the positive changes that we're seeing at the federal level in Argentina. So, of course, with President Milei taking over office a few years ago now, he's recently offered some major incentives to attract new investments into the country. We could talk about the key one there being the Riggy regime. But I think very supportive pro-business agenda right now in Argentina as a whole. So we're ideally located at the right place at the right time as we're looking to advance our project towards a construction decision here in the near term.
You know, when I hear you talk about this in how positive the governments have been to the development of mining, the mining sector, it makes me wonder, or makes me realize how important government is, and if they're putting forth the right policies at the provincial level and at the federal level, how successful an industry like mining can be.
Without question, that's always a key variable. And for us, of course, being again at the right time in Argentina certainly is helping us advance our project. I think one of the key obstacles in Argentina has historically been the FX restrictions, which have now just been lifted just as of last week, really. And so the new administration coming in, lifting FX restrictions, etc., opening up the market, and then offering major incentives. So reducing taxes, eliminating export duties, offering 30-year stability agreements, really make it very attractive now for new investments coming into the country.
Very interesting. So let's talk about Abra Silver in a little more detail now. And the company has gone through a major transformation in the last few years, and you and your team have done a lot to grow the resource. Can you just take us through a brief explanation on what you've done in the last few years and how large the resource has grown?
Sure. So our team took over running this project at the start of 2020, and so it already had a large resource, about 130 million ounces of silver equivalent, and so we've been drilling that year over year, and all credit goes to the exploration team down at site. They've really done a phenomenal job for us, just consistently growing the resource base through the drill bit on a very cost-effective basis. And so when you look at the trajectory of our resource growth each year, we've been able to add anywhere between 30 to 60 million ounces of silver equivalent in the ground. That's all in the measured and indicated category. And what we're really proud of is when you look at our average discovery cost, that's averaged only 11 cents an ounce. So it means for every 11 cents we spend on drilling, we're adding an ounce of silver in the ground. And so, phenomenal rate of return on our exploration dollars. Yeah, I think the key obviously there to the success has been, well, there's a number, I guess. First off, you need a great project, which we certainly have. You also need a great technical team at site as well. And then, I'd say we've also, on top of that, been able to maintain a very, very disciplined, value-driven approach to exploration. And so we've been able to ignore fluctuations in the market and a whole bunch of other noise, and just really maintained a very, very focused approach, looking at adding the most bang for your buck on the exploration side. And I think when you look at the track record, our team has certainly been able to do that over the last several years now.
And John, when you talk about the cost to discover, you said 11 cents for 1 ounce of silver?
Correct. For every, yeah, yeah. So when you
And
take the total amount that we spend, let's say we spend $10 million on drilling, I mean, how many ounces did we find for that? And you just divide the two figures.
and how would that compare to Canada or the US?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried benchmarking that to many of our peers. Unfortunately, most don't really report that figure, and I think that's unfortunate. As an exploration company, that should be one of the primary metrics that people put in their presentations. And then it's kind of hard to back out from the financial statements. You don't know what other costs, like there's not the exploration costs, but we're including laboratory costs, G&A at site, all types of costs. But yeah, no, certainly from what the work we've been able to do, I think we certainly feel very, very confident that we have the lowest, if not certainly one of the lowest, all-in discovery costs in the industry globally for all sort of silver explorers out there.
And how many ounces are you at right now?
So right now we have about 260 million ounces silver equivalent, and we're actually working on another updated resource estimate, and that should be coming out in a couple months now in July. So again, we expect that the number is going to grow once again. So we're sitting at 260 million ounces silver equivalent currently, but again, expect an update on those figures within the next couple months here.
And you also released a pre-feasibility study in late 2024. Why don't you take us through the highlights of that study, NPV, the CapEx, and anything else you think is relevant?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So updated pre-feasibility study, as you mentioned, in December. And so this is looking at a large scale open pit operation. We have, based on the reserves from the November 2023 resource update, we're sitting on a 14-year mine life. It's going to be a large scale operation. 9,000 tons per day will be the throughput, entirely precious metals focused. And so the economics worked out to about 60% silver, 40% gold over the life of mine. And so 100% precious metals focused. And I think what really stands out here is the average annual production profile in the first 5 years. We'll be producing over 11 million ounces of silver, about 60,000 ounces of gold. So when you convert the gold into silver equivalent, it's over 16 million ounces of silver equivalent production every year on average for the first 5 years. And what's important is very, very low all-in sustaining cash costs. So certainly well within the lowest quartile. Cash costs, all-in sustaining will be under $12 an ounce here for the first 5 year period. So tremendous margins, lots of production here, low cost, large scale. And when you run the numbers, I think for our base case, we used very, very conservative commodity prices. So we used only $2,050 gold. Of course, gold now is sitting almost $1,300 an ounce above that. And then we used about 25.50 silver. And when you run those economics, this project had about a $1 billion net present value Canadian. But if you look at current spot prices, so again, closer to over $3,000 gold, about $33 silver, the net present value there would be more than double. You have a project here with a net present value of over $2.2 billion Canadian. You'd have after-tax rate of return in the high 40s, so over 45% after-tax rate of return, and a very, very short payback period, less than a year and a half to get back your initial capital costs. So without question, I think a very, very robust project, large scale, long mine life. And again, with the feasibility study, we only expect many of those numbers to continue to improve here.
So you're adding value through the drill bit, and you touched on this earlier, but you're also seeking approval for what you call RIGI, which is an acronym, RIGI. And when
Yes.
approved, this will also add a lot of shareholder value. Maybe you can just take us through exactly what this is and how it's going to add value.
Perfect. Yeah, so RIGI is absolutely key for us. And so that is President Malay's economic sort of incentive regime for new large investments in the country. And so right now that was passed in July of last year, 2024, and it's effective for 2 years. So currently RIGI is set to expire in July of 2026. And so you really have to get approval, of course, before it expires, which we will do. We'll be getting approval in early 2026. And then once you're approved, you then have 2 years to spend 40% of your capital costs. And your total capex to qualify has to be north of $200 million. And so this is meant to, again, incentivize new large scale investments within the country, not only in mining across all sectors, but of course, mining is going to benefit tremendously from this. And what this does is it gives you a 30-year stability agreement. So again, no foreign exchange restrictions during that time, predictable taxes, gives you a tax break. So your corporate tax rate would only be 25% instead of 35%. Eliminates export duties, which are currently very high, 8% for gold, 4.5% for silver. Those all go down to zero under this new RIGI regime. And so this is a massive, massive benefits here being offered by the federal government. It would result in us saving hundreds of millions of dollars in lower taxes, lower royalties, lower export duties, etc., and just gives us a lot more certainty. So we'll be applying for RIGI in early 2026, and then we have 2 years to spend 40% of capital costs. So we'll have until early 2028 to really commit to spending 40% of the capital costs. And that fits perfectly within our current timeline. So we'll be looking to make a construction decision in late 2026 with a full year of construction in 2027.
And so why don't we talk about your drilling program? You just finished up phase four, and maybe you can just touch on some of the highlights, and you've just begun phase five, and maybe you can tell us what the purpose of that drilling program is.
Yep. So phase four was another 20,000 meters of drilling. Again, as you mentioned, we just completed that now. And so that was really meant to continue to expand the main deposits that we have. We have two main deposits here sitting near surface. Oculto is the main deposit. That continues to grow. So we've been drilling extensions off the main Oculto deposit. And then the new high-grade discovery that we made a few years ago called Jack continues to grow as well. And so we've been growing Oculto and Jack. And again, as I mentioned, we'll be publishing an updated resource estimate on that very shortly. And then that's going to form the basis of our feasibility study, which will come out in early 2026.
And I'm sorry, did you touch on phase five?
So phase five, yeah. So that was phase four. So that was phase four. That's been completed. And now we've gone to phase five, which is now well underway. That's an additional 20,000 meters. So we just completed 20,000 meters. Now we're doubling down another 20,000 meters. And this is, again, focused on step-out drilling. So this is looking, again, continue to expand Oculto and Jack is obviously a key area of focus. But now we do have a number of other exploration targets as well, earlier stage exploration targets. There's this one area that we're quite interested in called the Sombra target. That's a bit to the south and east of Oculto and Jack. Earlier stage, we've announced already a few holes from that have been quite encouraging. So we're continuing to following up with several new holes at that Sombra target. And then we do have a very, very exciting, our land package is quite large land package, about 4 kilometers away from the current resource. We have this whole porphyry district that has large scale potential. And so we're going to be drilling a few targets there as well as part of this phase five. So again, phase five is really focused on just continuing to grow the resource here, step out drilling with lots of blue sky potential, I'd say, ahead of us here.
So you're, just so I understand you, you're just trying to define the outer boundaries of this deposit.
Correct. Yeah. So out of Coulter and Jack, continue to extend that. And we want to find the margins here and then drilling these new areas as well that have never really had significant amount of drilling on them.
So why don't we talk about your balance sheet now? Because it sounds like you and your team are very busy with drilling and also working on an updated resource. So that's going to require a lot of capital. How much cash do you have on hand?
Yeah, so that's a great part. I mean, earlier this year, in February of 2025, we completed a well oversubscribed financing. We raised just under $60 million. That's 60 Canadian. And so we're fully funded for all of 2025, all of 2026. We're actually fully funded to get to the construction decision stage. And so not expecting any additional financing here in the foreseeable future. And so with the balance sheet, I mean, we'll be looking to spend again about $10 million US on exploration this year. The feasibility study will cost about $10 million US as well. And then, our G&A is about 5 million or so, roughly. So about 25 million there over the next 12 months. But again, we have 60 million Canadian roughly in the bank. So a nice buffer there on the balance sheet to let us finalize the fees, get the permits in place, complete another 20,000 meters of drilling, and really set us up nicely to make that construction decision later in 2026.
And I guess that's one of the good things about these markets with gold and silver trading, gold trading at all-time highs, silver not quite at all-time highs, but it's on its way. But it's easy to raise money. Maybe you said the deal was oversubscribed. Can you give us some more color on it? Who are the participants? Were the Canadians, Americans?
Yeah, so there was actually two deals done in parallel. So there was a bought deal, a public offering there that was done, and that was upsized. So initially we were targeting $25 million Canadian. We upsized that to 30. The demand was orders of magnitude above that level. And so, yeah, we capped it at 30. I think that was the right move for us. As we've seen, additional buying, I'd say, in the secondary market. But that was entirely institutional investors globally. So some, of course, Canadians, Americans, a large percentage, I'd say, were Europeans. There are a number of large funds out of Europe, out of London in particular, that really came in, I'd say, quite aggressively, really liked the story and participated there. So that was great to have that bought deal with excellent institutional support. And then in parallel, our largest investors, so namely Kinross and Central Puerto, also did a private placement at the same terms. Kinross maintained their 4% equity interest. So they maintained pro rata. They did not want to get diluted down, of course. And then Central Puerto, which is the largest utility company in Argentina, they used to own 4% interest in us. They elected to go up to 9.9%. So it's great to see their support. They're obviously an extremely valuable strategic partner for us, being the largest utility company in the country. And so, yeah, we had great participation from our existing large-scale strategic investors, and then as well, we're bringing new institutional investors on board through that bought deal offering that we did.
And John, it's not often you hear of a utility company getting involved in mining. Why are they involved?
Yeah, so a number of reasons. So Central Puerto, of course, they're taking a equity investment at this stage. They see lots of upside, of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't buy the shares. So first off, they obviously want to make money on their investment. They see Diablillos as being very attractive, seeing this becoming a project here, a producing mine in the near future. And secondly, they're also seeing Diablillos as a potential customer on the power side. And there, it's a win-win for both of us. And so where we're located in Salta, in the Puna, right now, the plan from our pre-feasibility study is that we would generate our own power plant. So we'd have a 20 megawatt solar plant with diesel generators running in the background to supply ourselves with power. But Central Puerto is looking at doing a large-scale investment in the region and extending the existing grid power and actually potentially running it through our property. So they see ourselves as, potentially connecting to the grid, and that would certainly be a windfall for our project. It would eliminate the capital needed to build our own power plant. And then, of course, on an operating cost basis, it'd be cheaper as well to be connected to stable grid power. And so there's, yeah, again, a few different reasons for them looking to invest in us.
And you mentioned Kinross as a shareholder. How involved are they? Are they just a passive investor, or do they give you advice on technicals or drilling targets or?
Correct. So they're a 4% equity level. So a large scale investor, I would say. But we do have a exploration sort of technical committee that meets with them on a regular basis, and they're absolutely very, very valuable. So we always value their advice. They know where we're drilling. They give us advice as to some of the targets, etc. So I think we have an excellent relationship with both Kinross and Central Puerto. They're both extremely valuable and really. We look to them for advice as needed.
So you said there's going to be later in 2026, you're going to make a construction decision. And if everything goes according to plan and you start constructing, when will Abra Silver go into production?
So it'd be first production is scheduled for 2029. So it's about 2.5, just under 3 years of construction. So 2029 would be a partial year with first gold and silver being poured at site in that year.
And when in full production, can you just remind me again of the numbers? What will be the annual production for gold, silver, and silver equivalent?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, large scale, especially over the first 5 years here in the mine plan, be producing 12 million ounces of silver, about 60,000 ounces of gold. And so when you convert that again on a silver equivalent basis, it's north of 16, close to 17 million ounces on a silver equivalent basis. So really positions Diablillos as one of the largest, highest margin, undeveloped primary silver projects anywhere globally, I would say.
Well, John, that was a great overview of Abra Silver, and I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today. As we wrap up, you went through a lot of information on what you and your team are doing here in the next few months, but maybe you can just give our viewers a summary of what news they should expect in the coming months.
Sure. So certainly, without question, very, very busy time ahead for us. And so I'd say, yeah, looking ahead, investors should certainly be on the lookout for a number of key catalysts coming out over the next 12-month period. So first and foremost, ongoing drill results for the remainder of this year. And so lots of exploration news, continuing down the pipeline here. I'd say also look out, of course, for that updated resource estimate. As I mentioned, that should be out sometime in July. Also, importantly, on the permitting side, we expect to receive our EIA approvals later this year in Q4. And so that would be a major, major positive development, of course. And then in Q1 of 2026, we'll be announcing the results of our definitive feasibility study and also looking for approval for that RIGI application. And those would really be the final elements needed here to really position us for a construction decision later next year in 2026. So a lot of news flow here. We think with the positive tailwinds on gold, silver, Argentina as well. Certainly a very, very exciting time for us. And so, yeah, I'd say busy times ahead, but it's good being busy in these types of markets.
Yes, it certainly is. Well, it sounds like you got a lot going for you, and I want to thank you very much for sharing this story with us.